Warm welcome to everyone. Good afternoon. So, welcome to the international conference and members meeting organized by ARSSS conference in association with IRAJ, ACN, SARC, ISTEM, Warface, Science Globe, IRE, IEEE Forum, and ASAR. So, behalf of entire organizing committee, I, Ravi Kumar, organizing secretary, would like to welcome you all. For now, I would quickly call on the participants to present the first presenter for the day. Do we have Akiko Kano here?
My project is, my paper is on creating a recruitment success predictor using machine learning method, gradient boosting method. The abstract goes as such. The project is aimed at helping human resources group to increase their efficiency of hiring process. During the pandemic, there has been a shift in the Indian IT landscape and in service industry, which has created significant demand for high-skilled labor in the market due to influx of demand. This has created more career options and competitive compensation structures. Because of this, companies are finding it hard to verify whether or not an employee that has cleared the interview will or will not enter the company. And as such, there is a market for a machine learning program that helps them predict the result before the employee or potential employee has even answered. These are the concepts with which this project is working with. This is the data that the project is working with. Using certain data fields, we will predict whether or not the employee will end up joining or dropping the offer. Applications of this project are as follows. It is useful for companies when hiring. It predicts probability of a particular employee joining after the interview, and it will also be able to predict which factors correlate most to willingness to join. These are the papers I had researched before going through with this project. Use cases. The intended user in this case is a corporation. The corporation must input a database of employee details relevant to the hiring of employees to train the program, and then the program will be able to predict the probability of other employees joining using the supervised learning. The data for the software looks something like this. This is an example of what gradient boosting method looks like. This is a flowchart of the project, and this is the flow at which the project has followed. This is the initialization of the program. Here we have tested the program for 400 entries, and we have gotten both a graph relating the predictions to the actual results as well as the bias score. And here is the same for 700 and 1000 entries. Here we have seen the bias score of the project is 0.166 for 400 entries, 0.149 for 700, and 0.145 for 1000. As you can see, the bias score goes down with increasing data, but also there is some diminishing returns. In conclusion, the project is able to predict the probability of employees joining. However, it is not able to predict the employees' individual choices and human-specific decisions. Thus, it is not perfectly accurate. I hope this project can go forward. In the future work, increasing the amount of data using a more powerful machine learning model and a model that could further detail the correlations between specific attributes and a candidate's chance of joining would help make the project much more useful. These are my citations, and thank you.
Thank you, Ayush, for your wonderful presentation.
creating and moderating analysis. And for today, because of the time limit, so I decided to just explain the first part of this study that is based on desk research. All right. So our case study is Northern Cyprus, and Northern Cyprus officially known as the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus. And why we choose this island for our study, because of the unique characteristics that we saw that it can be a good destination and good case for studying experience economy. And however, despite the importance of the tourist experience economy, little is known about the factors affecting memorable tourism experience, especially in Northern Cyprus. So that's why, as I said, we decided to study about tourism, about experience economy in Northern Cyprus. So this study aims to explore the opportunities of Northern Cyprus attributes contributing to the experience economy among tourists. And also this study contributes to both tourism demand and tourism supply in TRNC. And the third aim of this study is seeks to analyze the actual and potential capacity of TRNC to gain an in-depth understanding of the determining factors of tourist experience economy and to create memorable experiences for them. So what is experience economy? Based on Pina and Gilmore definition, experience economy has 4 dimensions, and these are including entertainment, education, escape, and aesthetic experiences. It means that if tourists, when they travel to one destination and they have all these experiences at the destination, it's supposed that it positively impacts their positive behavioral intention, like revisit intention and positive word of mouth. So about attractions in TRNC, actually, first we decided to search about the from the supply side, and we search about the attractions, about infrastructure and services and facilities in Northern Cyprus. These are the primary elements for the destination to supply tourism. So because of time limit, I move on. I want to say that based on natural attractions, based on man-made attractions and purpose-built attractions, TRNC, Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, is a very, very rich destination. And as we saw before, and we decided to choose TRNC. I mean, after searching also, we reached to this point that TRNC is a very, very good destination for studying experience economy. And as I said, through educational experience, TRNC attempts to increase customers' skills and knowledge by interacting, giving information. In the escape experience, customers can actively participate in different activities and events because several festivals yearly held in TRNC. And TRNC offers the aesthetic experience of customer amusement, joy, and pleasure by being in a sensory rich environment. So for tourists that they looking for different types of tourism and beauty, TRNC is a good destination for them. And finally, TRNC supplies entertainment experiences through different activities that tourism providers offer. Therefore, TRNC tourism can be considered a destination where tourists can experience all 4 components of the experience economy. So actually, as I said, after searching and after desk research, we reached to this point that TRNC is a good destination for studying experience economy. And for the and then we started our second part of the study. We collected data in some festivals, and we conduct, research and analyze the study variables, direct, mediating, moderating, and that is, as I said, is I didn't consider for today's presentation. Theoretical contribution. The result of the present documentary study theoretically contributes to the literature, since it is the first review paper to apply the notion of the experience economy within the tourism system in tourism. There are many studies about tourism, different types of tourism, and introducing different types of tourism in tourism. However, this study, as far as we know, is one of the first studies that analyze the different types of aspects of tourism in tourism from the perspective of experience economy. Practical contribution. It is recommended that managers and tourism suppliers in touristic destinations conduct surveys to gather information about tourist expectations to provide better facilities for them, because as far as we know, the tourist expectation should be met by all facilities and infrastructure that we reach to customer satisfaction in the destination and increase their positive word of mouth and revisit intention. And tourism marketers must implement different differentiation strategies to create a different and memorable tourist experience. Tourism planners in tourism could use a focused strategy to target several market segments and so other items. Moreover, promotional strategy can contribute to improving memorable experience for tourists. And the last slide, limitation. It is suggested that future research concentrate on different competitive strategy to improve the experience economy for tourists on this island. And so they can use a portal strategy, a generic strategy. And the last one, it is recommended that future research segments the tourist motivation by considering cultural differences among tourists in tourism. All right, thank you.
My presentation is about environmental stress condition and the new generation in plant breeding. In recent years, climate changes are strongly influencing the agricultural production all over the world and the breeding practice as well. Factors like an increase in global temperature, a decrease of the precipitation levels, and prolonged periods of drought are posing a threat to pathogen sensitivity and to crops yield all over the world. The impact of the environmental stress condition has been analyzed in many different species like maize, barley, and wheat. Moreover, it has been proved that the increase of atmospheric carbon dioxide can have different effects on crops. For instance, resulting into an increase of photosynthesis and growth, but at the same time, it can negatively affect the nutritional quality of the products. The problem is that in spite of the fact a lot of data is available about how a species responds to a single environmental stress factor, very little is known about what happens when plants are subjected to several simultaneous stress, both biotic and abiotic. The studies, the few studies available, proved that when plants are subjected to different types of stress, different pathways controlled by different genes are activated, depending on whether the plant is exposed to single or multiple stress. The first studies were performed on the plant model Arabidopsis thaliana, and a few were available, for instance, on legumes, like response to drought and earth stress. So it's a priority to develop new innovative strategies in order to create new climate resilient cultivars and to introduce a so-called next generation breeding. In order to do this, a deep knowledge of the physiological, genetic, and molecular mechanism behind the traits which make the plants resilient to stress are one of the main aims of the next generation breeding. And in this context, new technologies, the so-called high throughput technologies, molecular methods, bioinformatics, and biotechnologies are the foundations on which the new generation breeding will have to be founded on. Also, the recent advance in genomic knowledge and the individuation of genes and biological pathways made it possible to create new innovative biotechnologies like the ones based on cisgenesis, transgenesis, and genome editing approaches. One of the first ones was the method of the quantitative trait loci, which is one of the oldest ones still applied today in order to identify genetic variants which can influence the magnitude of measurable traits, like, for instance, the ones associated to plant stress tolerance. After this, different methods were created and many softwares are now available. The QTL strategy is now used in many applications. In plant studies, is still a very robust and consistent method, and is used in marker-assisted selection and for identifying molecular markers. Also, the introduction of the new generation sequencing made it possible to obtain a large amount of data, but also facilitated the study of genomic variation. For in fact, it led to the individuation of a large number of nucleotide polymorphisms at a limited cost, which are responsible for genetic variability, and also made it possible to develop dense linkage maps, increasing the accuracy of QTL mappings. Moreover, the availability of phenomics data is of great importance, and it can be integrated with this kind of information, increasing the potential of QTL mapping methods. Here are some examples of how QTL methods were used to characterize key relevant traits. For instance, in wheat, QTL analysis was used to investigate drought tolerance and blight resistance. In barley, it was used to individuate candidate genes in QTL regions, which are responsible for drought response, and in bottle gourd for heat tolerance. Moreover, in soybean, drought tolerance was investigated as well. Another recent method is genome-wide association. It's a great approach which makes it possible to dissect the genetic basis of complex traits by investigating and using the naturally occurring genetic diversity. It also provides an high-resolution mapping and makes it possible to identify the correlations between molecular markers and traits of interest in a given population. Again, this approach is used in a wide range of species and to investigate traits which can help to cope with climate change and environmental stress tolerance. For instance, in sorghum, genome-wide association studies were used to investigate leaves at tolerance during vegetative growth stages. In barley, the study of elevated carbon dioxide response was investigated as well. In brassica, the topic was the importance of vernalization reserves in face of climate change. In legumes, it was investigated how the crop adapts to climate changes. And in maize, multiple stress tolerance was investigated as well. Another approach is genomic selection, which is still considered a powerful tool to facilitate the selection of superior genotypes. In this kind of method, first a training population, TP, is assembled and subjected to genotyping and phenotyping for the traits of interest. Then a genomic selection prediction model is built in order to link genome-wide markers to phenotypes and to integrate this kind of data. Again, many studies are available. For instance, the evaluation of the potential of genomic selection to improve spring wet resistance to the pathogen Fusarium oxysporum. Genome editing is also a very relevant approach. It belongs to the larger group of the next generation plant breeding techniques and is opening up unprecedented novel opportunities for the precise and rapid modification of crops in order to improve yields and protect against disease, pests, and abiotic stress conditions. They also allow to breed in a faster and cheaper way. Genome editing studies to both abiotic and biotic stress were reported as well. Among these, the most relevant method is the CRASPR-CAAS approach, which is still being developed also in humans and animals. So, coming to the conclusions, the current technological advance about plant genetics make it possible to start designing and developing new breeding programs by using tools which are entirely different from the ones used in the past. And these tools wisely integrate information coming from phenotyping, genotyping, and also take advantage of the information coming from biotechnological and bioinformatics approach. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you for your presentation.
Focuses more on the genomic approaches in cereal crops breeding, so it's more on the genetic component. Cereals are considered the main feed crops on Earth, with species like rice, wheat, and maize, which still occupy most of the arable area. And rice, maize, wheat, and sorghum are the main ones, but there are also many other species. However, as I said before, cereal crop breedings are mainly related to climate change, and currently used programs are aiming to increase both yield and tolerance to biotic and abiotic kind of stress. Moreover, in the latest years, still increasing demand for food, feed, fiber, and fuel underlined the need to apply new agronomic means to improve cereal crops breeding. And the advances in breeding technologies and the development of novel genetic diversity instruments required to face the challenges of cereal crops production. So in this scenario, it's important to wisely organize the data available for using for instance, by using research paper and dedicated genomic banks and bioinformatics resource. What were the first plant models? The first sequenced genome was the one of Arabidopsis thaliana, followed by rice, and they both became essential reference point for plant and genomics researchers. And both the genomes played a critical role in understanding the key genes which are responsible for biological pathways in this species. However, the species can show very different features and different genomic structures. For instance, they can show a different level of ploidy and a variable content of repeated regions, which are a redundant feature in plants. So it's important to focus on the single species, and the next generation sequencing technology made it possible to develop a growing number of draft genomes, and nowadays more than 800 species are available, and also of a greater quality than the ones in the past. The de novo assembled genomes of many cultivated species have then become available, as well as the ones of many wild closely related species. So let's consider the evolution of rice genome as an example. Rice was the first cereal for which a draft genome was produced and became available in 2002. And subsequently, other genomes were sequenced, for instance, like the subspecies Japonica. And recently, in 2020, the genome of a wild rice species, Orziva granulata, was assembled, and it provided important insights into genome evolution of rice by identifying new genes for rice production. Moreover, during the last decade, more than 1,000 indica accessions were sequenced, providing new knowledge about genome diversity and structural variations in rice. And basmati rice was investigated as well. What emerged from the growing availability of genomes? It became evident that a single reference genome can represent the diversity within a given crop. So that's where the concept of pangenome originated. Pangenome is a genome which aims to individuate both the core genes, the ones shared among species from which this combined genome is generated, and also the genes which characterize each of them, each species, but don't belong to the others. Pangenome was then used in many studies and led to important highlights. For instance, it was found out that in mice, more than 10% of the genes characterized the initial reference genome were absent in the genomes of other mice similar cultivars. Also, in wheat, investigating the pangenome led to important information. And in rice, it highlighted the wideness of genomic variation in cultivated and wild species. And particularly the platinum standard pangenome, which is of high quality, represented the population structure of Asian rice. The problems of this kind of approach is that a cloud environment where all researchers can share information becomes necessary. The aim is to integrate multi-omics data like genomic, phenomic, and gene expression data in a shared web resource which can be expensive. And also all researchers must work by using common standards and methods. Pangenomes was also used to highlight which cereal varieties can be characterized by genes providing agronomic benefits, because the dispensable part of genomes, which is only found in one species but not in others, is often associated with ecological traits, like the ones which are responsible for disease resistance and environmental stress response. Genome editing, as we said before, is a new method which allows to modify a gene and to improve yields about traits related to climate resistance, and also to protect against pest, disease, and abiotic stress. And this approach was also used in pangenome. In particular, deep knowledge about the full complement of a given gene content is essential to correctly apply genome editing, because it's essential to have a deep knowledge of the sequence to edit it in order to ensure that the correct target to modify in the genome is found in the genome, because it can happen that it occurs in the reference one, but not in the specific line we are working on. And also to avoid off-target effects, which can have unpredictable implications. Coming to the conclusions, the genomic resource and pangenomes methods, which are based on multi-omics data, have the potential to increase the efficiency of cereal crop breeding. And as we said before, gene editing is also a great approach which can help to obtain cereal crops with desirable agronomic traits. Moreover, innovative bioinformatics tools and database must be able to correctly integrate data which come from the use of this approach, which are correctly integrated in a shared online environment which researchers can use in order to completely elucidate which relationships are found between the genomic variation and the complexity of agronomic traits. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you for your presentation, Diana, for your wonderful presentation. So how much percentage of improvement was found in the gene development when you did in this particular paper? What's the improvement?
What? I didn't understand.
What is the improvement percentage of increment in the implementation, I'm asking?
Lines, cultivars which are more resistant to drought can be selected. Also, as I said before, an exposure to prolonged period of drought and the resulting heat and drought stress in the plant can make them more sensitive to pathogen attacks and pests. An example is Fusarium oxysporum, which can significantly decrease the yield of wheat. So selecting crops which can resist better to this condition is essential to face the challenges of the climate changes all over the world.
Thank you, Tazina, for your wonderful presentation.
My name is Javier Suarez. I am from Colombia. My presentation was about the interpretation of a vocabulary on instant messaging, dialogues using ontology and the semantic web. The application of ontological engineering and semantic web takes on more relevance in the development of mobile applications. Through time, forms of communication have been development outside of linguistic sign, such as letters, text message, and in the last decade, the appearance of mobile application, which have been the most widely used to their easy and effectiveness. So in order to achieve this translation and interpretation between each of regions, although this research was carried out on the words and jargons and different terms, linguistic terms, used in 5 regions of Colombian territory. The Colombian territory has 5 regions. Look at this. The 5 regions: Caribbean region, Pacific regions, okay, Caribbean, near to Caribbean Ocean, Andean region, this is the most cold region in Colombia, Orinoquia, Amazonas, near to Brazil, near to Peru, Venezuela, and Ecuador, has a different words, idioms, language, and slangs in all territory, which in some cases are considered heritage of the and cultural effects of the regions in each region, and therefore do not have equivalent in other regions. There are terminologies, different terminology in each area, in each region, different semantic with different meaning between regions. We used the methodology ontology cycle or life cycle for create the ontology. This methodology provides a life cycle based on evolutionary prototypes and also offers particular techniques for each activity. The most important phase in the development process is the conceptualization task, since it is where the accurate knowledge for organized and structured terms. There are 1, 2, 3 phases: ontology management with planning, control, quality assurance, ontology development and support, and use deployment ontology. The binary relation through taxonomy ontology allows define the different relationships between concepts, between terms and words. These are the subclass of other subclasses to ensure communication with each the concept. The diagram, this diagram shows the taxonomy hierarchy and graphically constructed. This is an example of ontology obtained through the process. For the design and creation of the ontology, we used the Protest platform and different tools for software development. In this case, on the case 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cases are created and the object project properties that will relate the classes to each other creator classes. Each class for different region. There are other region added. In this case, region Eje Cafetero is the region for coffee production. It's the most known at the world. Is more known at the world for coffee production. This is the ontological model that allowed the organization and management of the information was achieved with the communication with mobile system, where the homologation of the words is of the region is evidenced in order to finally be able to send phrases to instant messaging application. In this case, we have connection with Twitter. This is an example of a mobile application in Spanish, obviously in Spanish, but in this moment, there is application in English, only Spanish, because this is the prototype mobile application prototype through only Colombia. You understand, for the terms only Colombia. This is the main page of an application called with semantic web application for management of translation and interpretation vocabulary through messaging dialogues in Colombian Spanish. Why Colombian Spanish? Mexico, for example, is other country with many terms or words with a different application through all country. Argentina is the same case. All countries in Latin America have the main case. In the same just using with Twitter API is used so that messages written in application and are sent directly to select Twitter account. These messages will already have the homologation of the synonym in other regions. For example, in English, for example, in English, in Colombia, friend, in Colombia, in region Eje Cafetero, compadre, the word is compadre, is different, this term, in Amazonic region. Semantic is different, the equivalence. This is the final front end for application with the connecting with Twitter after semantic analysis through the input of word at application. Conclusions. The fitting of ontological models represents the fundamental aspect of a communication process. So it is suggested to include the use of artificial intelligence techniques such as multi-agent system, artificial neural networks, among others, that allow optimizing the ontological modeling at the inference for translate. On the other hand, the visualization environment proposed in this project has been developed in a modular way, so that it can be extended to other functionalities such as an external reasoner, the external inference, so that the inclusions of inference in the ontology is not required. The next phase is the define a prototype in mobile application for use in different contexts, center context or Ministry of Cultura in Colombia is the final, or tourism. This is the final proposed. Thanks. Question?
Thank you, and wonderful presentation.